Flameo Hotman, it's exciting that we're definitely getting a season 2 and 3 of Netflix live action Avatar The Last Airbender, but there are definitely a few things that they need to improve from season 1 if season 2 is going to be any good. So I'm going to look at 5 things that Netflix need to fix from season 1 of the live action Avatar. First up for this video, I've put Katara's characterization. Personally, and definitely from what I've seen generally on social media and in the comments of my video, people seem to agree that Katara's live action character is the most different and possibly the most bland out of all of Team Avatar when you compare her to her animated counterpart. And I think I know why. It's because they've scaled back a lot of her characteristics, specifically her caring characteristics, and replaced it with a more dominant focus on her being a warrior in the live action series. Now personally, I don't mind her being a warrior. That was of course part of her journey in the original animation, but the issue with the live action only having that part of her character kind of makes her seem like she lacks a bit of personality. And some of it is really subtle. For example, this scene right here after the fight with King Bumi. Katara asks Aang if he's okay, but she doesn't really do much to show she's actually concerned with his well-being. I mean, the kid is gingerly getting up off the ground after a hard battle, and she kind of just stands there and watches him, almost like there was some kind of COVID protocols in place and she wasn't allowed to help him up. Compare this to the original animated Katara, there are so many occasions where she's a lot more hands-on with Aang and a lot more of Team Avatar. I mean, there are many cases she physically helps Aang get up off the ground, and even just little things like putting a hand on his shoulder to reassure him. These are small things that the live action just doesn't have Katara doing, and therefore you lose those little subtle mannerisms that really mean so much to Katara's character. Without showing these little moments, it kind of makes it hard to really relate to Katara and see her diverse personality. It feels like quite a simple thing to fix though, and certainly if they expand on this in season 2, I really feel like there's potential to fix Katara's character and not only make her a lot more lore accurate, but just also make her a lot more likeable. Next up, we're moving on to Aang and his waterbending. Season 1 didn't show Aang learning to waterbend at all. He only ever waterbended when he was in the Avatar state. I kind of understand why they did it, and I even did a whole video explaining why they've done it. However, there's no way they can go through season 2 without showing him learning to waterbend. My personal theory is that season 2 will start after a time jump, because the showrunners have directly referenced the characters aging, and they've specifically said they've adapted the story, for example switching out how Sozin's comet puts a time cap on the whole series. And so I feel like it makes sense for season 2 to start with a time jump. However, that's got to have included Aang starting to learn how to waterbend, and I think season 2 will definitely need to build on that. Plus on top of that, I really hope they don't follow the same thing they've done with the waterbending with the earthbending. It feels like it's really important for Toph to show Aang how to earthbend, and it's definitely not something they should be leaving out of season 2, because I think that would be a big mistake. Now sticking with Aang, the third thing I've got on this list is that I feel like they need to show Aang using his signature moves more. If you think about the animation, he was constantly using his air scooter, not just for fun, but to get out of certain situations, for example when Zuko captured him, or even the drill episode where he was trying to stop the drill that Azula was on to break into Ba Sing Se. It's kind of a symbolic move for Aang, and I feel like the live action Avatar just didn't really showcase enough of Aang's signature moves. Now I'm not saying it specifically has to be the air scooter, Aang's got a fair few signature moves. So I think either using the air scooter or finding another signature move, just something that makes Aang a little bit more diverse and a little bit more recognisable. For example, they show Katara using her water whip on multiple occasions, and the same goes for Zuko's classic spinning fire kick. But for some reason, they just don't give Aang his signature move, apart from that one jokey time they did it during the Kyoshi Warriors episode, which was back in episode 2. So it definitely feels like this is something they can fix moving into season 2. Let's jump on to the fourth thing for this video, and it's got to be dialogue. I've certainly seen lots of you comment about the poor dialogue and overuse of exposition in the live action Avatar. The good news is, I think it's a fairly easy thing to fix. They can just straight up remove, or at the very least reduce the amount of exposition that went on in season 1. They just don't need it in season 2. And I understand they did that because they wanted to introduce the series to people that hadn't watched the animation. However, now they've spent season 1 doing all of that, it would be a massive mistake if they carried on all of that exposition into season 2. So hopefully the writing does get better in season 2. Let's finish with the more generic one, and this one is pacing. Season 1 crammed in a lot of stuff, as well as adding in a bunch of new scenes, and that just meant that everything got clumped together and the episodes became very convoluted. Now personally I think some of it did work, and I didn't mind that they combined certain storylines, but there's definitely a lot of stories there that they crammed together and it just didn't quite work. One common example I see people complaining about is the fact that they had Jet, the Mechanist, and Boomy all in the space of an episode and a half, while also throwing in Secret Tunnel and the Cave of Two Lovers, which strangely was between Sokka and Katara instead of Aang and Katara. But ultimately all of those things together just felt overloaded, and it meant none of these stories really got their chance to shine on their own. So they really need to fix the pacing in season 2, otherwise they're going to run into a similar issue. Now I'm more on the side of not having a direct one-for-one match of the animation, in that I like new scenes and I like stories being adapted, but they need to find a way to make that work while still giving important stories enough time to develop. And in all honesty, and this is just me personally, I don't mind if they want to take out certain things that maybe aren't quite as important, and I'm happy with them just being Easter egg references through the season. If you think about it, that's exactly what they did with the pirates, the Great Divide, and even the fortune teller episode with the mention of the volcano. So I think if you put these 5 things together that Netflix need to fix for their live action Avatar The Last Airbender, season 2 could actually end up being really good. Of course, I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that you guys want to see fixed, so share what you want to see improved in the comments down below. The showrunners are still shaping season 2, the full scripts haven't been written and they haven't started filming yet, so there's still plenty of time for us to get that feedback out there and the showrunners to shape season 2 to be as awesome as it can be. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I'll catch you later.